Welcome back to Creating Dementia Solutions. Richard Pyatt here. This is a Miles for Memories program, and we're glad to have you with us today. You might be seeing us on Access Vision, hearing us on a podcast, or seeing us on YouTube. Wherever you are, we thank you for finding us, and we invite you to follow Miles for Memories on Facebook so you're brought up to speed when these episodes come available. So if you have been with us over the course of 2025, you know that we have focused on the Lancet Commission list of factors that reduce potential risk for dementia. One of those is quitting smoking. Boy, you know, we have made such tremendous inroads over the years. I'm a child of the 70s, right? So many of us were around folks who smoked more than we are now, it seems, but there's still some things going on out there related to that, and one of the ways that potentially we can reduce our risk for dementia is to reduce our smoking habit. Now, on top of that is the whole vaping story. So these are all things to talk about. And I was out and about recently and was talking with the folks at the Substance Abuse Council in Battle Creek. Hanali Johnson is with us today, who oversees prevention there, and we're going to talk a little bit about how they work with young people to get them away from tobacco, vaping, cigarettes, all of that. Hanali, thank you.
Hi, thank you for having us.
Boy, this is really something. You know, we talk about technology. Miles for Memories talks about technology and the great inroads of this. But man, e-cigarettes have made it easier to consume tobacco, marijuana, and do so in different environments because there's no smoke, right? So this has been a challenge, hasn't it?
It has been a really big challenge in our community, for our schools especially, with youth that are being able to bring them in and get away with it a little bit. And the electronic factor behind it makes it more appealing to our younger people.
It really has changed. Of course, you know, I'm getting older, which is probably what it's about. But when I was in high school, we had a courtyard for smoking. Can you imagine?
Oh, yeah.
Kids could go out there and smoke as long as it wasn't in the building.
Right.
And they thought, if we give them a place, they won't smoke in the bathroom. You know, it was a whole different feeling. Hate to tell you, that was 40 years ago. Now, Substance Abuse Council has something called Teen Intervene. This intervention program related to smoking and vaping is part of that. But let's just talk for a second about Teen Intervene and the intention behind that. It sounds catchy, but it's really an important program, isn't it?
Right, it is. So our schools locally, you know, when students get caught vaping or using other substances in school, our schools no longer have a courtyard.
Yeah.
So now the kids are, you know, forced to do it the old, you know, not the old-fashioned way, but they're sneaking into the bathrooms, things like that, that are creating a problem for others in the schools. So the students were getting suspended. And if you suspend a kid for vaping at school for 3, 5, 15 days, their mental health is going to go down, their vaping use is going to increase, and they're going to get behind in their classes. So we reached out to the schools in order to partner with them to maybe lower these suspension rates and bring a little bit of education to the youth about what they're using. You know, some of the facts. We try to bust the myths and the facts behind vaping, give them some real facts to be able to make decisions for themselves with.
Yeah, this is probably a good way to approach it, right? Come through the schools. And what you talk about suspension is really interesting. I mean, you know, talk about the old-fashioned way. If you misbehave to a certain extent, you got to stay home for a few days. But think about that. Home is different for young people than it was for folks who are my age, in the sense that you got more time on your hands. This opens the door to other behaviors that could be troublesome. So I see your point. This is tremendous. And on top of this, the whole notion of nicotine addiction and young people is a serious one, isn't it?
It is. It is. Nicotine addiction can happen the very first time somebody does use tobacco. So if the first time somebody uses nicotine and it hits that reward system in their brain just right, they're going to duplicate that over and over and over. So not everyone gets addicted the first time, but it is a guarantee that with quantity and frequency, they will get addicted.
And the notion of an e-cigarette means they have more opportunity to do it.
Oh, yes. Yeah. We joke with the kids that, when they see e-cigarette, they're like, what is that? I'm like, that's the old person way of saying vape. So, we
It's already an old person.
Right. So we tell them that because they have no idea what e-cigarette is, but they hear vape, and vape sounds safe.
Yeah.
When you think of a vape, you think of something as safe, and then that's the notion that they are using to base their choices off it, that it is a safer version of smoking. It's cleaner, it's safer, it's tastier.
It's flavored.
Oh yeah, it tastes like cotton candy and bubble gum and green apple Jolly Ranchers or whatever.
Oh, man.
It's to them it's delicious. So it's working on more reward centers in their brain
Than just an old cigarette.
Right.
Yeah, I think back when I was a teenager, the notion of smoking, and it wasn't vaping then, it was cigarette smoking, that it was supposed to taste good, and it really didn't.
Right.
So luckily it never appealed to me. But it occurs to me, maybe we ought to talk about what an e-cigarette vaping is. It's a cartridge with an insert. Is that right?
So it is an electronic device. It usually looks much like the USB or a small remote control. It has an electronic atomizer in there that heats a coil that burns the propylene glycol, glycerin, nicotine flavor mix, and then it aerosolizes it into something that you can inhale. So it is not a vapor, and that is another misconception. It's actually an aerosol that you're breathing in.
Ooh, think about that. The notion of breathing in an aerosol can emission.
Well, I liken it to the kids like a can of Pam. If you're spraying a cookie sheet with those oils, it is basically the same thing, except for this one is full of flavors and a synthetic nicotine.
Wow. Think about that, folks, for a second, and what that means. I remember being a kid thinking, okay, we learned that breathing clean air is good.
Yeah.
So how could smoking be good? I remember thinking that.
Yeah.
And here we are 50 years later, and we're trying to sort out this new thing, which when we talk about the availability of it and the use of it being more prominent, it's because there is no smoke.
Right.
All right. Brain development and young people. So young people are attracted to this option at a very important time in their development.
Oh yeah, they're very influential right now. Your brain doesn't develop until you're roughly around 25 years old. Everything you're doing up until then is kind of learning how to be a human. You're making the ability to make decisions. You're forming all of that. And unfortunately, through smoking, it's going to lower those abilities. It's going to lower your impulse control, your memory, your ability to maintain attention and focus. So it's pretty damaging to do in these early years before their brain's fully developed.
Well, and you talked about memory right there. So there's a concern where we come from here at Miles for Memories and creating Dementia Solutions. It made a whole lot of sense to me to talk about this within the context of this program because, boy, if there's an opportunity to reduce risk for dementia, there's that.
Yeah.
But also to start at a young age to curb this behavior, that's got to have an effect on the potential for dementia going forward. Why do teens do this? What's appealing about it besides the taste and the brain stimulation?
Well, for some kids, they're just bored. They see other people doing it, they're bored, they're curious. Kids see something going on and they're like, curious, why is everybody doing this? Sometimes it's peer pressure, sometimes it's family, social influences, things like that create this curiosity, or they hear that it's going to help them with their anxiety. It's going to help them with things. So they get into trying it for these false notions that are out there, and then they're hooked before they realize it.
Well, we used to say that about cigarettes back in the day, right? It calms me. I heard more than one person say that.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, you're trading off for that calm feeling, trading off a lot of other issues.
Short-term solution for a long-term problem.
Yeah. So this program, Teen Intervene, the notion of trying to help young people understand how to give this up, the importance of the health ramifications of this, it might be tempting to be punitive. You're doing that, you're grounded. You're doing that, you're suspended. Talk about why that doesn't work.
Well, a punitive approach is just going to deter them from actually talking about what is going on.
The root cause
of why they're doing it. Not only that, it leads to a lot of shame and guilt with them, but if I am suspending a kid, for instance, for smoking in school, they're going to go home and smoke all day. They're just going to increase their quantity and frequency of use. Then maybe they're getting in trouble at home. So now I have more shame and guilt, more things that are going to trigger me to want to use. And my grades. Now my grades are going to be way far behind. I might end up failing my grade. I may end up dropping out.
Well, I guess the whole notion of suspension is a whole other discussion, maybe with an educational professional. But you see the point.
Yeah.
We're giving more time to engage in this behavior if we're not in school.
Right.
Yeah.
Kind of just goes the opposite of their intention.
Yeah. So some people talk about marijuana this way, that it's a gateway to other things. Is vaping seen as that way too?
Yes, it is. So if I'm willing to do this, I'm more likely to do that as well. And unfortunately, what we are seeing in our community is there are youth that don't know what they're smoking. They may think that they're vaping nicotine, but they don't understand why this one makes them sleepy. And so they find out that they're actually vaping marijuana. And it is an unfortunate truth that we are discovering even in our own community.
So you've encountered young people who think they're just inhaling what we call vape. It's not, as you've said, it's not really vapor.
Yeah.
Pam with flavor.
Right.
But it's really marijuana.
Yeah.
Oh my word.
And then once they have that, if it hits the reward receptor in their brain, they're like, you know what, that one actually did this for me. And now, now I'm trying this one. So where they may not have intentionally meant to try that substance, now by default, they've accidentally tried it and discovered that they liked it.
Wow. There's a mental health connection here somehow?
There is mental health connection to anxiety, depression, and we are seeing, if I'm experiencing a lot of anxiety and depression, then we do see youth that do have suicidal ideation from that as well.
Boy, so this has potential to lead to some pretty extreme factors and concerns.
Right.
So this program, Teen Intervene, and the associated approaches that you're talking about, you're calling that supportive intervention.
Right.
And maybe you can elaborate on what that means, but it's been working.
It has definitely been helping quite a bit. If you think about a youth who is already struggling with anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation, and they already feel isolated, they already feel alone, and if I am punitive in my demeanor towards them, they're not going to open up to me. So it just creates this snowball effect of why they're using in the first place. Our approach to them is to open up and find out why they're using. What is the root cause of this? And how can I help you look at what are your risks and benefits that you're receiving from using this?
Yeah.
If my cons that I'm experiencing outweigh the pros, how can I help get you to the next step of finding something else to move you towards a healthier choice for yourself?
I would imagine it's not 100%, but you see the results. You can tell us today that this approach has provided an opportunity for someone to quit, and they've done it.
Oh yeah. We've been doing this program for 4 years now, and every year I have youth that come up to me and they say things like, I've cut down or I've quit. And I celebrate every achievement. If you tell me that you've cut down, I'm going to congratulate you. And I'm going to ask you, what successes have you noticed within yourself in your life since then? All right, how can we get you to the next step? If you've quit, great. What supports did you use? And how are you going to maintain that success?
So is there, when we're talking about just the the average vaping, not marijuana, but the average vaping, is there a, that's nicotine, right? So there's an addiction. What's the most successful approach? Reducing the amount? I've heard people doing that.
It depends. Everybody is going to quit differently, just like everybody is going to start differently.
Yeah.
We encourage them to try to just quit cold turkey altogether, just,
okay.
And see if you can. Some might be able to. Some, we're saying, you know what, leave it at home. Don't take it to school, because that is going to cause even more problems for you if you continue to get in trouble.
Yeah.
And it is federally illegal, so don't take it to school. See if you can make it through a school day. Okay, see if you can make it through a whole day. Try to then taper down. So we encourage them, and this is through an open conversation instead of just, how dare you, you need to just stop.
Understood. Yeah. So you've clearly stated you end up meeting young people through schools, but do people call you up and say, my kid's vaping, I don't know what to do?
We do, actually. We have parents that will call and say, I've tried everything, I don't know what to do, they're not talking to me, what should I do? And I'm like, you know what, it's because your mom or dad or the grown-up that they live with, they need an outside source, that is unrelated, that they can talk about this too. And then we can sit down and see if there's ways it can help you as a family as well. So
there are individual opportunities.
There are individual opportunities.
Okay.
They can call. They can also, if they don't want to bring them in to our office, we have parents all the time that through the school call the school and say, you know what, I know you're having this session. Can my child come to this? So they can also have peer discussion, because once they talk in a group with each other, they feel less isolated, and they realize that some of the things that they're experiencing that cause them to use are a little bit more common, and they have somebody they can talk to about it.
They're not alone.
They're not alone.
Well, congratulations on the work you're doing in our community to help with this. Thank you.
Oh, yes.
Appreciate that. Substance Abuse Council has a website. We'll link it in the show notes for this episode. You can click through, read more about Teen Intervene. Also, in the show notes for this episode, Miles for Memories, prior episodes, technology from Miles for Memories. Haven't talked about that lately, and it's there, and pretty incredible too. So have a look, click through from our show notes to the Miles for Memories website. And once again, follow us, Miles for Memories, on Facebook, so you know when these episodes come available. I'm Richard Pyatt, creating Dementia Solutions. Take care.